Hey kids, we're back. You're watching Guitar Quackery Live. We are going to polish, we'll level some frets and then we'll polish them. Level and crown and then polish. Yeah, Guitar Quackery Live. So this is a live stream from Guitar Quackery. Guitar Quackery is right there. That's the shop, repair shop for guitars. We are at Music Makers NY. Sorry, Bob Elliott's Music Makers NY. That's the name of the studio here. Those are rental guitars. You just saw a music teacher grab a guitar here. Or did she grab two of them? Whatever. Yeah, many interesting things are happening here, including Guitar Quackery, which is the smallest guitar repair shop in town. If you excuse me for... I need to do something here. I am also streaming live over there in the waiting area. And I'm getting text messages at the same time. Sorry. Okay, so this is now streaming live on the entryway TV, we call it. And I need to get back to this text message here. Everything is happening at the same time. Okay, I will get back to this later. So this live stream is going to be on the playlist. It's titled How to Level and Crown Frets. Right. So when I started streaming, I wasn't going to do tutorials really, but this is kind of what I'm doing. So I might as well title them How To. All right. So we have an interesting Martin guitar on the workbench. It's right there. I'm going to show it to you in a moment. It's got a maple back and sides, not a maple top. So let's have a look at the guitar. Here it is. Yeah, spruce top. But beautiful maple back and sides. All right. And mahogany neck. It is an M-64. Okay. We are going to level the frets. Have a look at the guitar. This is it. It had some work done already. This isn't the original nut. The owner of this guitar decided to upgrade to a bone nut. I am not sure who did the conversion. It looks good. Yeah. But we are going to be working on the frets today. Obviously, we'll need to touch up the nut if needed, which is always the case. And we'll do a full step on the guitar. So let's first have a look at the frets. Yeah, like I said, it's got some fret wear. Maybe I use this instead. Okay, I think this is better, yeah. Right, so we'll have a look. And here we go. This is the first fret. If I zoom in, you can see there is some fret wear here. Here, those dimples. Okay, and if we move over to the second fret, you can see the fret wear. Okay, so it's time to do something about the fret wear. Now, frets get worn over time. They get worn unevenly. So even if you check the frets with the fret rocker, you will get a false reading. Let's talk about that. Like I said, this is a little bit of a tutorial, so this is the fret rocker. So the idea is you can find a high spot. So these 3 frets are even, but if I simulate a high spot by placing a pick here, then the fret rocker would be rocking. Now, you cannot find a low spot with a fret rocker unless you insert a feeler gauge or something. And it also can't detect uneven frets if the frets have these dimples, because you would typically try test the frets between the strings, and the fret rocker is even thicker than the width of the dimples. But the frets don't wear evenly. So if you had a way of measuring that, you would in fact see that the dimples are at different heights. So that's one thing. That might not be a big deal, but we basically want to maintain the fretboard. We want to maintain the frets. We want to keep polishing them, buffing them to reduce fret wear. Now, what do we do once we have dimples on the frets? Well, that's basically the height of your fret. You know, the lowest point of the dimple on that fret is the height of the fret, regardless what surrounds the dimple. So we are going to level off the frets, make them all even to each other. That's leveling, and then recrown them, reshape them into a what's called a crown, and polish. Level, crown, and polish, and do a setup. But we always need to do a little bit of preliminary work, which, you know, I call an assessment of the guitar. Basically examine the guitar. I did do a full assessment of the guitar when it was dropped off, but I always like to refresh my memory before I do the actual work. Now, since this is not the original nut, why don't we have a closer look at this bone nut? Let me see how I should put it under the microscope here. Okay, this looks good. And here it is. You can see the nut. I can see it right there on the screen. This is the bone nut. It's been cut, well, it's been really polished and buffed, so it's really rounded. I don't know who made it, but, you know, we just want to look at it. So once I level the frets, I need to check the nut just to make sure that the string slots aren't too high, right? And if they are, then I touch them up with a nut files. Now let's look at the specs, the setup specs of the guitar. I'm going to take a measurement of the relief. And by the way, I already checked the string heights of you know, the nut, you know, just by tapping like this. This is a quick check. And the B string seems to be a little higher than the others, but it is nice and low. But we do have a little gap underneath. And like I said, we don't need to go crazy with measurements of the nut right now because we'll be touching it up anyway. What we want to do right now is we just want to take some other measurements, and I will measure the relief first, which we do with a straight edge and a feeler gauges. There are other tools available to measure the relief, but this is nice and simple. Okay, I measure the bass side separately from the treble side on the 8th fret. We want to make sure the truss rod works. So here we have 4 1/1000ths. This is 5 1/1000ths. I cannot put it through. 4 1/1000ths goes through right here, okay? And if we go over to the other side, now we check the same one, 4 1/1000ths. It doesn't go through. 3 1/1000ths does not go through. I have the 2 1/1000ths here. It also does not go through. Does it have a back bow? Not really. It has a small relief. I can tell because I can flex this, but not enough. So we want to be able to put some relief on the neck, which means we want to loosen the truss rod a little bit. I always check the truss rod first just to make sure that I don't do all the work on the guitar and then discover that there's a problem with the truss rod. It's probably a 5 millimeter, one of those. Let's see which one fits. I think both of them fit. I'll use the shorter one. So we want to release the truss rod a little bit. To add relief to the neck. All right. And now let's take another measurement. We have what's called a differential relief right now. So we have a little more relief on the bass side than we see on the treble side. And this is actually a good thing in this case because more relief on the bass side is something that might intentionally be built into the guitar. In this case, I don't think it's intentional, but it just works out really well. So here we have now 5 thousandths relief. 6 does not go through. And on the other side, let's see if 6 goes through. It does. And then 8 does not. So maybe 6 or 7 1/1000ths on this side, 5 1/1000 on the other side. That's fine. But obviously, we will be leveling off the frets. So I'm not sure if we'll maintain that differential relief or not. Also, I want to sight down on the two sides of the fretboard just to get an impression if I have any kind of roller coaster situation. So around the neck joint, sometimes you can see a hump, and sometimes that is actually a hump, and sometimes it's just an illusion. In this case, I can see something that could be misinterpreted as a hump. So there is a high spot here, and there's a relief here. And then this goes down in this direction. So this part is called a fingerboard extension, and it is intentionally, by design, going down a little bit. That's called the fall away. And because of this fall away, this part of the fretboard will look a little bit higher when you sight down the side of the neck, and one might misinterpret it as a hump. So those are two different things. So there is no hump, but there is a little bit of a fall away, which is actually a good thing. We are going to maintain this fall away when we level the frets. I wonder if I might be able to show you. Oh, look, we have a small audience. All right. So today we're doing a tutorial, how-to video. Why not? me set this up. I wanna see if I can place the camera strategically in a way to show you what I see when I sight down the neck. Now that's not always easy to do, but let's try. It will take me a few seconds to set this up. And this looks kind of okay, I guess. Now, I'm going to try to change the focus. So here is what I'm talking about. This looks like a hump, but it isn't. This part here is the fall away. So this is not a hump in this case. Here we have a little bit of a relief, which the camera doesn't really pick up too well. But when I look with my eyes, with my eye, so close one eye and sight down with the other one, with the other eye, I can see a little bit of a relief. Okay, so we've eliminated one. Yeah, so we want to make sure that truss rod works. We do know it works because it did adjust the relief, and we want to just examine the guitar. Let me just take a quick measurement of the action. Now that the relief is good, I want to measure the action on the 12th fret. Here it's just a tiny bit higher than I want it. It's about 85 1/1000ths of an inch on the 12th fret on the treble side, and on the bass side it's also a little bit higher. It's about 108 1/1000ths of an inch. I like it to be 100 on the bass side, and I like it to be 80 on the treble side. Okay. One thing for sure, I always want to put away any sharp tools. This is pretty heavy. It's got sharp corners. So if you use this Stumac straight edge, it's good practice to put it away right away. We are going to remove the strings. So one thing, the guitar was dropped off, I don't know, a few days ago. Was it last week or a few days ago? Something like that. Less than a week ago, I think. And it was kept in a humidity-controlled environment. We want to see that that the soundboard has a little hump here, and that's called the soundboard deflection. So we never want to have a guitar with a completely straight top. We want to see this. Okay, that's again built into the guitar. The early guitars, the early flat top guitars were completely flat, and they would crack constantly because when a guitar dries up, the moisture escapes the wood fibers and the wood shrinks. So now when you have a little bit of a hump, a dome, and the volume of the soundboard shrinks, it goes down. But if it's already flat to begin with, it has nowhere to move, and then it just separates like this, and it can crack along the wood grain. So yeah, so the so-called flat top guitars should never really be flat, and some of them are, but should not be. Here we have a high spot, and here we have a low spot. We can see that if we just do this, right? And here there's a high spot. Okay, so this is okay-ish. It's not too bad, but ideally you would have no gap here, and then you have a high spot here, and then you have a significant gap here at the back. All right. But often because of the string pull, I'll use this bridge to explain. The bridge moves in this direction, and and the soundboard here sinks a little bit, but here the bridge is pulling it up. All right, so that's what happens sometimes. Like I said, I kept the guitar in a humidity-controlled environment for a few days, and that's one important thing when you work on acoustic guitars. You don't want to be doing a setup on a guitar that's dried up or over-humidified, because then when it stabilizes, the setup is completely off. I'm going to remove the strings so that we can put the guitar on the neck jig. So the neck jig is outside. I'll show you. This is the neck jig. Right now it is not being used really. I just put this is not really a guitar that's being played. See, I have my business cards here, and it is on the neck jig to protect all this, because obviously we do have customers coming in and out, walking by. So I'm going to remove this guitar from the neck jig and mount the Martin on the neck jig. But I'm going to do it off camera, because that takes a while. Let's put this one here for now. Yeah, so we put the guitar on the neck jig with the strings on, and then we do some more adjustments of the neck relief on the neck jig once the guitar is secured on the neck jig. I'm just going to quickly explain, but like I said, I'll be doing that off camera. And the reason is there's a lot of back and forth with the adjustments, and I'm not really sure how useful that would be for most viewers, since most viewers don't have a neck jig, obviously. But we want to straighten the neck while the guitar is on the neck jig by adjusting the truss rod. And the part of the guitar we want to measure, if possible, is the board itself, not the projection of the frets, okay? So like I said, I don't have a whole bunch of cameras outside, but why don't I explain it here? So typically what I use is what's called a notched straight edge, whenever possible. Sometimes that's not possible, and we need to use other techniques, and a light. So I have this small light. Let's have a look at the notched straight edge first. Okay, this is it. So this is a 25.5 inch scale length, and as you can see, you can put it on the board. Okay, so now this is a straight edge, right? So this now measures, shows you if the frets are even, basically, or it takes a read of the relief or the back bow measured at the fret level, but with the notched straight edge, you are actually measuring the board itself. Now we know we have a little bit of a fall away after the neck joint, which is built in, and we know we have a little bit of relief here right now. Therefore, I can put the feeler gauge, as you can see, between the straight edge and the board itself. So there might be a little bit of a discrepancy between the fret tops and the board. Since we're leveling the frets, we want them to be true to the fret board, and we want to use a notched straight edge to measure the straightness of the neck with the strings to full tension while we are adjusting the truss rod. Okay, so the light that I mentioned is used as a quick, check. As you can see, the light shows the gaps. You can see it right there easily. So those are the adjustments that I'll be making with the strings tuned to full tension with the guitar on the neck jig. Then I will remove the strings and mark off the frets in red, and we will be doing a procedure called level crown polish. First we level the frets, and then we recrown them, and then we polish them. To level the frets, we can use different methods. The two methods I'll be using today require leveling beams. So this is one method with a straight leveling beam. It's called an L-beam. I'll show you more of a close-up. And the other method is, I have here several. So this is a short leveling beam, by the way. This is the one we want to use for this job. This one we might use to touch up the differential relief, which I'll show you. And then we have these. So these are leveling beams with a radius. So this one has a 14-inch radius, as you can see. And by the way, that's a Skyscraper product, Skyscraper guitars. It is 20 inches long. And that's a really great tool, okay? I have more of them in different radii. This one, for example, is a 12-inch radius. Then this one, for example, is a 9.5-inch radius. So this is important, right? We cannot use this one on a guitar, let's say, with a 12-inch radius, etc., right? So in order to know exactly which radius sanding beam to use, they're called sanding beams or leveling beams, we need to measure the radius of the fretboard. So we do that with these tools. Okay, so these are radius gauges. Okay, so I have a whole bunch of them. Let me turn this light off because we don't need it anymore. And I already know that this is a 14-inch radius. Okay, it's a Martin. It's got a 14-inch radius. Not every Martin is going to be the same, but this one should have a 14-inch radius. And the way we take a measurement, so we can measure the radius of the frets or the radius of the board. All I'm interested in is the radius of the board. So I place it like this. Okay. And now I take a very thin feeler gauge. I spread the strings here. The strings are pushing it down against the board, right? And I try to insert the feeler gauge between the radius gauge and the fingerboard. And as you can see, it doesn't go through. Okay, that's in the middle. On the sides, it doesn't fit here, and it doesn't fit here either. Now, let's imagine that I grab a radius gauge with a bigger radius, which means it's not as curved, right? So this is not exactly matching the curve of the fingerboard. So in this case, I would not be able to put it through in the middle. I would detect gaps on the two sides, okay? Because a bigger radius results in a flatter curve. And if we were to take a, let's say, 12-inch radius gauge, then it would be the other way around. I would not be able to insert the feeler gauge on the two sides, but it would go through the middle, as you can see. So once again, we've determined that this fingerboard is, in fact, a 14-inch radius board, and we want the frets to match the board. So therefore, we are going to be using this radius sanding beam, which is a, it says right here, 14-inch radius. But, like I said, I'll be using two methods because I'll be using two different tools. The 14-inch radius sanding beam will be used to ensure that the radius is matching the radius of the fingerboard. And then all the finishing work will be done with the straight radius beam. Now, I'm not going to get into the techniques in this part of the series, right? Because this is just part one. You're watching part one. In part one, on this playlist, we just do all the preliminary work. And this time, I'm turning this into a tutorial on a how-to video. So I'm explaining a little bit more than I would normally be explaining in a live stream. I just wanted to make it that way this time. All of the live streams on this channel are not going to be tutorials. So this one is titled How To. How to level and crown the frets on a Martin M-64. And now it's part one prep work. Am I forgetting anything? No. We also want to, at some point, examine the inside of the guitar. So how do we do that? I already examined the bridge with a feeler gauge. So you go all around the bridge, the glue joint, and you don't want to see a gap. So if there was a gap, I'll just use this bridge as an example, we would be able to insert the feeler gauge between the bridge and the soundboard. Now, this is on the outside of the guitar. On the inside, you have an X brace. You might have some other braces. So once the strings are off, I'm going to go inside the guitar and by feel, try to insert the feeler gauge between the braces and the soundboard. And I don't want to find gaps. Now, I believe I already did this. To be honest with you, I don't remember. But I will do it for sure once the guitar is in position. I think I did it already. I don't know. Maybe I'm pretending. Okay, friends. 5 of you watching. Click like if you liked it. If you feel that you want to see this type of content in the future, meaning these kind of full tutorials, then let me know. If I see any thumbs down, I guess I'm not going to do it in the future. I don't know. Or if I don't see enough likes, why bother? So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not forcing anyone to watch. If you feel this is useful, then let YouTube know by clicking thumbs up. If you feel that you want to buy me a coffee because I'm teaching you all this, just, you know, please feel free to click the link that says buy me a coffee. You don't have to. We're still friends if you don't. But if you do, I appreciate it. And that's it. I'm going to take a short break and jig up the guitar on the neck jig. And then in part 2, we'll be doing the actual level current polish procedure. Okay? Any questions? You can put them in the comments. I might read, I think I will have time to read the questions in the comments of this video before I start streaming part 2. So yeah, that could work, right? That's it. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.